And we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media broadcasting live on the Worldwide Coalition Media Network here at the GoLocal Live Broadcast Center, 90 Way Bossett Street, on the mean streets of Providence, as we often say, on the city we love. But I've got a couple of special guests in studio tonight. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to lighten up. First, of course, a big thank you to Elizabeth Nolan Brown in our first segment, and Jordan Hevenar from the Women Project. Compelling stuff, thought-provoking. Those videos will be rebroadcast, of course, on the Coalition YouTube page. Direct links at facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio, and at coalitionradio.us. And as we always say, our politically unbiased, all paw socks all the time Twitter feed at Pawtucket is home. But again, let's have a little fun now. We're on the entree, on the exit ramp to a holiday weekend, the 4th of July, celebrating our nation's independence. And while I may be on Way Bossett, hard by Orange, just off of Dorrance, I've got to talk about my favorite street, of course, which is Thayer Street. Donna Bersonius is, in fact, the head of the organization that markets and supports Thayer Street. And she's going to try and join us. She's been detained a little bit. But we've got a couple of new and exciting businesses that are popping up. Thayer Street is undergoing a lot of changes. A lot of really exciting stuff. It's just a wonderful place to spend an evening in Providence. Whether it be rainy, a little bit tonight, a little bit steamy, a great fall evening, even in the height of the winter. There are restaurants, there's entertainment, there's shops, there's cinema, and of course, there's Thayer Street, the students of RISD, the students of Brown University, the variety of hangers-on, everything you need that goes that makes a scene. And it points out to the diversity of life in Providence. I often, when discussing the controversies of surrounding, say, a Brown University or Rhode Island School of Design, JWU, Providence College, I have to repeatedly remind people, if it wasn't for the presence of those universities, we would miss so much, whether it be the international visitors, the national figures who come here to debate and challenge us, the students themselves, and quite bluntly, the economy that exists because of the student population. It's increasingly an international student population, and with that has brought a diversity of restaurants and entertainment forms that, folks, you don't get in the rest of the country. I travel a lot across as a loudmouth of the Golden Mike calls it, the fruited plain. And I spend a lot of time in cities where, quite frankly, their idea of a great Italian restaurant might be our idea of a hellish night in a strip mall. You know, their idea of culture, well, quite frankly, is reading about cities like us and maybe going to vacation in a city like ours. We're surrounded by this year-round, and I wonder sometimes if we take that a little bit for granted. And a street like Thayer Street, where the changes are organic, they're exciting, and there's just so much contemporary art, tech, restaurants, just on a day-to-day basis. Folks, spend some time, go out there. I do this for fun. Take a little change from the suburban oasis you may live in. Come down to Providence. The parking's a lot easier now. There's dedicated right off-street parking. It's certainly very safe. It's alive until the wee hours of the morning. So take a moment and come down. One of the new businesses that's opened up here is my new friend, Nidel Batika. Welcome to the Coalition.
Thank you.
For the very first time. It is the Base Station VR Lounge, Rhode Island's only dedicated virtual reality facility. Welcome to Providence, and how long have you been on Thayer Street?
So just 3 weeks.
Just 3 weeks, wow.
I moved in on the 1st of June, and about a week or so set up, and we've been doing it for 3 weeks now. So
now, what if you don't mind me asking, what's your background? How did you come to?
So
what did you do before you did this?
So before I did this, I've done retail for most of my life, and just recently I was working in storage as an area manager for a small company, and they ended up selling their business because
to the Cube guys.
To the Cube guys. That's exactly what they sold it to, was the Cube guys, and it was a good time for them. They made a decent profit, and I just wanted to find something different, and I wanted to find something that didn't put me in in that position of, the person above me selling me, the owner selling the company, now I'm left with nothing to do or continue searching for another job. So I looked at opportunities that would allow me to find my own path versus just allowing somebody else to find the path for me. And I had gotten into the virtual reality equipment, and I was thinking that would make an interesting business idea. And doing a little bit of research, it was a very new thing. There's not more than maybe 24, 30 different places in the country.
Really?
Yeah, so it's relatively new to just the world. There's more in China than anywhere else, but only a year ago did anything open up. Probably next month would be a year to an anniversary of anything being open here in North America. So
right.
It's still relatively a new business. So I'm sort of at the ground level of that kind
right.
of thing. And I thought that would make a great thing. I'm into tech, and I like exploring new things. And this is a great experience for people to have. And I thought this was a great way to share having people inside a virtual world. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Right. Now, why Thayer Street?
Thayer Street, I had looked at other properties, and the one thing that kept drawing me back to Thayer Street was that it was very much a community. There was a lot going on. There was the colleges, as you mentioned, all in that area. There's community efforts of people like Donna who are looking to expand the area, not just make it, okay, you just come there, you shop, and you go home. I mean, it's a real community there, and that drew me very much to that. It feels very warm, welcoming, and it's a lot of activity happening there, which is a great thing. And the more new places that come in, the more active it becomes.
It really is a destination now.
It is. It very much is, and it was hard to say no to something like that because
right.
it is a very. I do get a lot of people that come in and say, you're in a great spot, this is a perfect location, and I believe that wholeheartedly because those people are being drawn in just from the mere fact that is the location that I'm in. So, and like I said, the community part of it makes it even more helpful, more welcoming to be part of that community.
Right. Now, and of course, the fresh blood that comes in every year in the form of the wonderful student body, our favorite little darlings.
Yeah.
Virtual reality. Let's talk about the underlying technology. There's a lot of myths about it. There's a lot of attempts at lower end retail products that, quite frankly, people have found disappointing. You're operating at a completely different level.
Yeah, so what people see in the stores, typically, they'll find those things that they put their phones in, put those on, and it's a very limited experience. You're using the computer and the phone to try to generate this, and it's getting hot, and you can't move around a lot. So technology like this allows you to have what's called a room scale environment. You don't just sit in a spot and then use a controller sometimes. You can actually stand up with the controllers and move around in a virtual world. It's all running off of a high-end computer, running off high-end equipment that has a clear screen in front of you to be able to interact with the world, versus where you're putting those phones on your face and you can't even really interact with that world. It's a very flat, three-dimensional world, versus this, which puts you inside. It's very immersive, and that's the key difference between what you might buy at the store versus the high-end equipment that you're putting together here. It's very immersive. People will go in and they will, when you're there and you're not inside VR, you see the flat screen, the monitor that shows you what's in there. And until you actually go in, it's a completely different world. And I've used the phone ones and then gone to this, and it is a completely different experience. It's a much more, like I said, immersive experience because of the technology that's behind it.
Right. I mean, from my experience in a different life, working in tech, the processing capability, the differential between a desktop processing environment and something, and as elegantly sophisticated as our phones are now, still, it takes a lot of juice to do it right, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, you need the power to go behind it, and beyond the power, you need the space to go with it. So even if, let's say, somebody were to go out and say, I want to get this, now they have to move their furniture and make a space to move around in. So I'm presenting that as not only just, hey, I have the equipment, but I also have the space that you can move around in, and eventually the ability to interact with other people that are doing this, so that you can have multiplayer games or have multiple people participating in one activity versus just one person in a headset and then people waiting their turn. Or, your friend's house, you got to wait for that to be free, and then you can die, and then it's very limiting in that. So I'm looking to grow that aspect of the business. It's still a relatively young industry, and those are things that are being introduced as time goes on. So
now, where are you located up there?
So we're 286 Thayer Street. It's the green door to the right of Carter Bar. Unless it's open, that's a white door, but you can't miss us at that point.
Okay. And what are your hours?
We're open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 12 to 8. Friday we're open 12 to 11, and Saturday 1 to midnight. And those will probably change or refine as we figure out when the best times are, but that's our starting point, and see how it goes through the summer.
Now, as an aside, as a father of children who went to college, went to school on the east side, one of the great motivators of business is the birthday party scene.
Yes.
All right. So, my kids are old enough to now. I saw it go from jewelry parties to roller skating parties to, everything imaginable in between. Are you catering to groups right now?
Yeah, so right now, so I have the potential of having 5 stations, as we call them. So there's areas that you would play in. Right now I have 3 that are definitely live. The other 2 I'm still putting together a list of games. But you could rent either 1 station, you can rent 2 stations, you can rent 3 stations, or you can rent all 5 and just have the whole venue. You can bring food up. You can. I'll have sodas and drinks soon. But you can have. But you can bring up your own food and have the food there. There are tables there. There's couches that you can lounge around in. Hence the lounge part. And so you can. It's meant to not only just be for one person to play or a small group to play, but also a potential party, whether it's for kids or for adults. It could be just a gathering. It could be a team building thing. I mean, there are a variety of different things. But I can rent out part or all of the venue if people are interested.
Now, one of the challenges of really giving folks sort of the pitch, if you will, is the real difficulty in getting folks to portray it on screen when it really is an immersive technology. You've supplied us with a video that we're going to have up on the website.
Yep.
That'll give you a little bit of a taste of it. But really, the seeing is believing.
Absolutely.
You need to dive in, don't you?
And I encourage people to come down, and I do give free demos for people who have never done that. Absolutely, it's the only way to do it. I've had people that don't know what it is, and they see that flat screen, and they go, that's not a big deal, and then they put on the headset, and it's a completely different
transformative, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I went in to a certain extent blind, buying it on my own, not knowing what to experience, and I was glad it's now become an investment. At the time, it was more a plaything, and now it's an investment, and I felt it was a good investment. And I think that until people experience it, they really don't know what it is. And so I'm happy to give a short demo to somebody that has never experienced it. I've also got events that are a little less expensive. Like tomorrow, I have a walk the plank event where people come in, they'll pay $5, and then they'll walk a plank, both in real life and in virtual reality. But the plank in real life is only an inch or 2 off the ground. In virtual reality, it's 160 meters. But if they can make it across and back, I'm going to give them a discount on a future visit. That's the challenge is, can you do it? And I've seen people do it without the plank. It gets more difficult with the plank. So so I'll have those kinds of things that will allow people to experience it at a lower cost, or something that they might not necessarily expect, and then that will help them understand what it is, because it is a new technology.
Right. Folks, if you're just joining us, I've got Adele here on from Base Station VR on Thayer Street in Providence, right next to Carter Bar. We're talking about an immersive virtual reality experience, one of the first in the nation. This isn't cutting edge technology. This is bleeding edge technology. Right here in La Prave. Great idea for team building, a night out, open Saturdays till 11. Also an opportunity for maybe older kids, if you will, for a birthday party when Chuckles the Clown or bead making gets a little tired, yet at the same time you want to do something with your kiddo. This is also probably a great visitation day activity with father and son, mother daughter, father daughter.
Yep.
We're we're
I've had combinations, so it's
absolutely. And again, here's the beauty of Thayer Street. Obviously, I'm a fanboy, right? You know, you can spend the day there with your kiddos. There's the creperie and a half a dozen great places to go for breakfast. Spend a few hours, at a shop. Then there's time to do a little shopping door to door. And if you want to make a full day of it, you can go to a completely different cuisine for dinner. Or start later in the day, grab a movie, go to the night else, and just, again, you can make a day really out of just a handful of blocks. I'm not aware of really a lot of that anywhere in this part of the country, and certainly not when you get into flyover territory. It's just these opportunities don't exist. Embrace them. So now, what are some of the games? Are you typically playing a game? Or are you typically in like an outdoor setting? I mean, what are some of the activities?
There's a variety of things. Most people just think of them as games, and I use the word arcade for the description, but it's not quite an arcade. It's not loud and noisy.
Right.
It's more of a lounge, and that's why I decided on that name. But basically, there's again a wide range. There are experiences where you can go in Google Earth and travel the country and look around, look at all over the world, and that's just an experience without really doing much of anything except exploring. There are things like shooter games. A lot of people will do first-person shooters where now you're in the game versus working a controller. You're actually moving around in the game. You have these controllers as your guns, and the way you would hold them, they act very much like guns. They're held like guns. So that's a very big part of it. We did a day where people just happened to be choosing horror experiences where something would just jump out at them at inappropriate times, and so there's scary stuff. There's exploration, what they call dungeon crawlers, where you're just going through a dungeon, exploring, probably fighting zombies or things like that. So there's again a great range of things, whether it just be simple experiences to being really immersed in a shooter type game, and again eventually multiplayer, where you can now have your friends there and do whether again more multiplayer shooting or multiplayer exploring.
And this is where the video is so important. You've gone a major step beyond laser tag, haven't you?
Absolutely.
This is not your parents' laser tag game.
This is definitely beyond that. I mean, you are interacting with artificial intelligent things that are attacking you, and you're trying to fight back. Or you might be playing with your friends in the same type of environment where you might be fighting in artificial intelligence, or fighting each other, or whatever that might be, or again exploring. So it's a whole new level of. I mean, and this is definitely cutting edge in terms of what the next level of things are. We're not quite at the point of getting rid of the headset and the controllers, but they're getting close. Next level controllers are almost like you're not holding anything. They have things where you can see they call augmented reality, where you're now seeing things in the real world. So this is the next level of going into things. So.
And the beauty of your facility, it being a dedicated facility, not just an add-on or an afterthought, is that you'll continue to grow with the technology as the technology explodes, as processors continue to expand. This is not just a whim. This is the real deal. What age groups can you cater to?
I found that my youngest player recently was 6 years old. He was just turning 7. Had a little bit of difficulty getting into the game, just mainly because the controller was a little too big for him. But typically you could have that age. I find that about 10 and up is about the best age in terms of getting into the virtual reality. But the average age tends to be later teens, mid-20s. That seems to be the sort of demographic. Right. That doesn't mean I've had people that are older. I've had people from the 6, obviously, up to in their 60s. So it's not something that I can say has any specific range, but it seems to be best for the demographic of the mid-20s. A gamer, somebody that's been doing gaming, and some older folks have been doing gaming for a long time, so they are still part of that genre, and this is just a new venue for them.
You have to wonder at what point in time will some of particularly the shooter games, actually cross over into this. It's. I mean, that's the holy grail, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an unbelievable experience. I mean, the more I'm in it, the more I play, the more I wonder if we're in the Matrix. It's that unbelievable that you're in there and you see it, and you can again you're holding controllers, so that's one step out into reality. But the more you do it, the more things that are integrated into this system, the more you think, wow, this could be we could be living in a computer. It's that amazing an immersion of it.
Is there a Matrix app yet?
There's not a Matrix app yet, so that's I'm sure in the works.
All right, Mr. Smith. No, that's just outstanding. How many folks can come together at one time?
So typically a station will, comfortably 4 people can fit in a station because that gives them about 15 minutes each in an hour. But I've had, the other night there was about 14 people using 2 stations. And they were more there just to experience it, to see what it had for them. This is Venture for America that happened to come by. So it could do 5, okay, 6 would be a little tight. So at 5 per station, we're talking about 25, 30 people that could share the whole space relatively comfortably. And again, depending on how long somebody's in a session, I could have more or less. So
excellent. Are there plans of you to grow beyond one location, or
at some point? I think it's a matter of just learning the business, learning what people like, learning what I can offer them, and seeing what opportunities there are. So at some point, it would be nice to actually have a second location or expand the location that I'm in. It really just depends on the volume of customers. If I'm finding, on Saturday nights, I've got all 5 stations booked for the whole day, it's probably time to think of another station or expanding or another location elsewhere. So
now this really doesn't exist anywhere else.
Not in Rhode Island, not in New England, at least not exclusively. There are probably some places that have a headset, but they don't they don't really understand the technology. They're not catering to that. They're catering to, I think one is an escape room in Maine or something, where that's not their business. Their business is really something else.
And you're not going to get this at the chain store at the mall either.
Exactly. You won't get this. You really won't get this anywhere. I've heard of them doing them like, and this is not in the area, but kiosks in the mall where you're walking and you end up in the middle of a kiosk, and that to me still feels like you're just going to sit in a chair and get a massage, and that's what.
I was going to say, is that the same guy spraying perfume on
Yeah, exactly.
Or selling me little helicopters?
It's not a dedicated thing. They're not really putting the time and effort to really work with the tools that they have. They're really just saying, here's an opportunity that I can probably make some money from. I'm going to just throw it in my shop.
And the critical point is that this is hardware that's really not affordable to the individual user.
Yeah, not only would you need the space, you'd need the money and the equipment. So you have to buy a high-end computer and then invest the money in this. So it's not even, it's that, the space. All these things just make it difficult for the common person to invest the money in it, especially if they're not going to be a dedicated, 9-10 hours a week player. If they're just doing 1 or 2 hours every few days, it's a big investment for them to put into that just for a little bit of entertainment.
Now you're a gamer.
I am not a gamer, surprisingly.
Really?
Yes, I was actually, when I bought the computer to house all this, I had just been looking to upgrade my computer, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get the best I can get. And it was advertised in the virtual reality, and I thought, well, I'll give that a shot. And again, the immersion part of it was what really drew me to it. So I'm not really a gamer. I have a PlayStation 4. That's about the extent of it. And I'm a casual gamer, if anything. But this brought me into an area where I really enjoy the gaming aspect of this, because it's not like holding a controller. I can hold a controller and play for a little while, and then I get bored after a while, or it's very, very, again, I keep using the word, but it's not immersive. But once you're in here, whatever the game is, I tried, there was a demo for, or I don't know if it was a demo, but it was a Spider-Man promo, virtual reality, and I got in there, and you have to swing up to something, and I just got in, and I teetered on the edge of something that was in virtual reality, and it just surprised me. But that's what draws me to it. That's what draws me to the gaming in this, because I might not be a gamer, but I will. I've had plenty of non-gamers enjoy the games in here, and they will say to me, I'm not a gamer, and then spend half an hour playing a game.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, ultimately, I tried Halo to date myself. I played Halo for a while. I like to shoot 'em up once. I'm not projecting anybody into that, right? But it lost me after a while, because to me, and again, this is your typical 50-something-year-old response, but you are physically limited by your ability to respond on the console.
Right.
This is not. You're literally.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard gamers comparing consoles to PC gaming, and PC gamers will whip your butt because they have all the keys down. You can't use as many controls. With
Right.
this, you don't have to worry about what key to press to point and shoot. You just point and you shoot.
Right.
You don't have to think very much about it. There are some nuances to how the controller works, but once you get them, they're much more intuitive than something like a keyboard and where you're pressing stuff. And as the controls get more advanced, those get more advanced and simpler to use. And the next level controllers really use your whole hand. Right now, you can't really grasp something physically, but in the next level controls, you're going to be able to grasp things with your fingers, with your whole hand, just point. So there are various levels as they're growing. So that will be even more immersive because now it feels you're really in the game versus now, okay, I've got a controller. But yeah, that's that next level. You don't have to worry about what button do I press. You just point and shoot.
Right.
Which makes it much easier and more immersive again.
Is it a 3D-like experience? Because what I'm trying to do is ultimately,
Yeah.
and it's great that you're, and again, folks, we're talking about the VR Lounge on Thayer Street in Providence, my new friend Adele. Folks, if you go there, do you need to call ahead to tell them you're coming for one of these quick trials?
No,
or?
the demos, they don't have to. Generally, it's best if you go to the website, basestationvr.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the website and book a reservation for any longer than the demo. That way you make sure you get the space. But you can certainly walk in, either make a reservation at that point or walk in and ask. And if I don't have all stations occupied, then I'm able to do a demo.
Okay.
So that's not, and even if it's just to come in just to see what's going on, if it is busy, it's actually good because you can see what others are doing and how they're
What's it look like? I mean, I'm sure no one wants to be the guy they take the video of as I'm standing there with
so it's a really, well, first of all, what people look like is they look like they're flailing about. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
kind of like me and Tony on the dance floor.
Yeah, you can see what they're seeing on the screen, so you understand why they might be moving the way they are, but it isn't quite as, you said, is it 3D? So it's hard to describe as 3D. You go to a movie and you can say, oh, I can almost touch that. In this, it's all around. You're in a world, and when we talk about virtual reality, it's reality in a virtual sense. You can look around you, and again, this is the type of equipment that you can look 360 above, below, behind you, and there's a world around you. It's not just, I'm going to look at a screen in front of me and act and react to stuff in front of me. It's actually all around you. You will be able to see things. You may not necessarily be able to interact with everything in the universe, in this virtual reality, but you're able to see it, and you feel like you're there. I don't know, it's difficult to explain until you're there, but it really feels like you're there. Even with there are things that are animated, like the Plank experience, for example, for tomorrow. It's not a high-end, it's not, hugely pixelated. I mean, it's very, very cartoonish to a certain extent. But it doesn't matter. You're there. You really believe you're there because it's your senses tricking you.
And by the way, just for the record, and Tony finds that this is a constant source of amusement. You're talking to someone for whom Pac-Man and Asteroids was not a retro, ironic statement on the current state of video gaming. That was what I grew up in. All right. I mean, somewhere in my parents' former home is still a Commodore 64 and an Atari. Okay, so this has been the dream, if you will, to take that level of entertainment to this point.
Yeah.
This is in a sense really the first step of the Holy Grail.
It is. It's a new experience. They used to, one of the concerns when people talk about arcades for this is that they bring up things like, well, 3D TVs came and went. But this is a different thing. It's not a 3D TV. It's a world. You're in a reality. 3D movies will be around for a while. People will enjoy those, and that's a different experience. But this is a whole different level of experience. It's a whole immersion of your senses. Eventually, I'm sure they'll have. You also have headphones that are directional. So when you look to your right and there's a sound coming, you hear it drift away, or you turn around, so there's a knocking behind you. You think you can feel it's behind you. So the audio is immersive, and then eventually they'll have the smells and things like that. All this stuff to make you feel that you're actually in the world even more. But as it is, it feels like you're there.
What level of processor does your computer actually have to support this intensity? Is it the video card that's...
It's primarily the video card. You want to have a high-end processor as well, but the graphics card is really what the stumbling block is. Mm-hmm. That's where you're talking $500-600 for the low end, and so that's where people get they're trying to do the cheapest they can, and you can get a desktop machine for a few $100s, just a general desktop machine,
Right.
but it won't run anything like this because you need to, not only are you powering the computer and the graphics it's generating, but you're basically generating two screens here of more
Right.
power that you're trying to. So.
And the sheer volume of the data that's got to reside on the
Exactly.
system
You're
is got to be.
communicating all that, so it's.
I mean,
it's high.
are we talking terabytes here? Or?
Well, we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of data. You're talking about sending all this stuff through a high definition cable,
Mm-hmm.
and you're talking about it. So in terms of pixels, you're talking about it's somewhere in the range of whatever HD is. I can't think now what the HD would be, but it would be 2 or 3 megapixels of data going through all the time. Not just
Again,
for,
I grew up on 1024 by 768
Yeah.
graphic cards.
So
that was hot stuff.
Yeah, this is a 2 HD monitors in front of your eyes, plus an HD monitor that you're watching this on, all trying to be processed at the same time without being slowed down. Because once it slows down, the key with the reason why you want a high-end graphics processor is because you need to have a specific frame rate. So it has to go at 90 frames a second, and if it drops. If you're below that, you get motion sick, or that's one of the possibilities of seeing that. So you want to have as much frame rate, as much frames per second going through as possible, because you don't want to lose any, and that's when it causes you to go, oh, whoa, this is weird, and you don't want that. So that's why you want to put in as much money as you can to make it work. So.
Do you get folks who don't want to take the headset or take the piece off? I mean, you find people just.
I have people that I have an automatic system, so it'll shut them down at the end of their session, and it's just this disappointment at the end of that. I've had people that have extended it just because they knew it was coming out. There's an announcement, so they know it's coming up. All right, I want to extend it a little bit longer. I had a person try a demo, and I was a little concerned because he was in it for about maybe 2 minutes, took the headset off and said, "Oh, I'll be back." And then 2 or 3 days later, he came back and rented, for an hour. So it's like he just wanted more, but he just didn't have the time to continue the experience. So that was a little weird to see that happen because I didn't expect that. And all of a sudden he's back, and I'm like, great, this is
No one's had to be forcibly removed from the building.
Not yet. I find,
That'll be me, Tony.
Yeah, I find that the ones that are the younger teens, the tweens, those are the ones that just want to keep going. And you have to guide. But again, once it shuts off, I can't do anything about it. They have to pay for more time if they want to see more.
Tony, is there a virtual reality buffet you and I can? Well, no, that's just simply outstanding. So you're already finding that you're booked heavily, so people do need to go.
It's best if they make the reservation online,
So
or at least call in advance. So,
Right.
But ideally, if they can book it, then they've got that time set up.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's your best bet, and they are set up. It's set up so you can do. So it doesn't have to be just one hour at a time. And I also have shorter times if people want 15 or half an hour. Your best bet's about an hour or longer, especially if it's a larger group. Then you want to be able to share that at that point.
Right, and it's a rate. There's not you can change activities while you're there.
Correct. You have whatever I have available in terms of games and experiences. You can change between them, so you're not limited to just one game or one experience. You can try different ones, and as many times as long as it takes to load it, and that's the only thing that would be delaying them. Other than that, they can play it as much as they want within the time frame. And the time itself, the rates that I have are for the rental of the station. They're not a per person rate. I don't believe that it's necessary to do that. If you're going to rent it, it's going to be I'm going to only rent one headset at a time. I can't rent more. So that time is just for that station and that headset, and people can share that between themselves if they'd like.
Well, now that's outstanding. Give folks again your website and all the contact information.
It's basestationvr.com, and the phone number is 401-484-1895. And they can also find us on Facebook at BaseStationVR, with Facebook before that. And they can get all the information at both the website and on Facebook, or they can certainly call and talk to me about it.
Great. Folks, we need to support local businesses. We need to support local entrepreneurs. This is a fun segment, so we won't go overtly political, but we spent a lot of time on the show over the last few months talking about how hard it is to get businesses to come to this state. We need to support local folks who are taking chances like gigantic leaps like this. Although based on the conversation we just had, I have a feeling you're going to be nothing but an unvarnished success. So thank you for coming to Coalition. We are going to load a video up in conjunction with our promotion of this clip, so you can get a little sneak peek of it with all the contact information. Listen, it sounds like, particularly on a rainy Saturday or that birthday party that you're looking for, it just sounds like a great idea.
Thank you.
I look forward to trying it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. It's time for one of our favorite segments every few weeks. It's food porn time. But the folks are being another Thayer Street, a new arrival, if you will, to the community. So we're defining for you a great way to spend an afternoon here at locally owned businesses run by local entrepreneurs who are part of our community. Folks, you're listening to the Coalition on the Worldwide Coalition Media Network, broadcasting live here at the GoLocal Live Center, 90 Way Boston Street in the city we love, La Prave, Providence, the Naked City, the city of 1,000 stories. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the Money Money Twitter at Coalition_radio. This and all other broadcast links can be found too at coalitionradio.us. Stay tuned. It's a Friday night going into a 4th of July weekend. We're going to have some fun, continue to have some fun, and we're going to have a little bit of food, and we're going to wrap it up. Folks, stay tuned. We're literally going to be right back.